In March 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. In April, Russia let Igor Girkin and his group of armed men, who had helped with the annexation of Crimea, travel on to the Donbass and essentially start the armed conflict there by occupying Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. In May and June, Russia deployed additional irregular forces to the Donbass to further escalate the conflict, and among them was the now notorious Wagner Group. In June and July, Russia supplied these irregular forces in the Donbass with tanks and heavy artillery, and also with the Buk air defense system that shot down Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 on 17th of July. However, all this in the end turned out to be not enough to defeat the Ukrainian armed forces. So in late August 2014, the situation of Russia's irregular forces in the Donbass became rather precarious. So Russia sent in regular units to push back the Ukrainian military. So this is the situation we are in at the time of the first Minsk agreement. Russia had continuously escalated its covert invasion of Ukraine and in the end inflicted a major defeat on the Ukrainian military using its regular armed forces. Now you might ask, hang on, isn't that only part of the story? Where are the demonstrations by pro-Russian activists in the Donbass? Where are the local residents who fought against the Ukrainian military for the separatist cause? And sure, these factors definitely did play a part. But in my book, I argue that they were outshadowed by Russia's actions. And that if you take away Russian direct involvement, the Donbass probably would have seen some civil unrest, potentially even a certain degree of militarized violence, but this would have never turned into a full-fledged war in the way it actually did over the summer of 2014. And here lies the key problem with the Minsk agreement. They would have been a potentially viable solution to solve a small-scale domestic conflict, but they fail to address the fact that what happened in the Donbass was actually a covert invasion of one country by another. Both Minsk agreements included 5 key provisions. There was a ceasefire, local elections, an amnesty, the withdrawal of all foreign troops and equipment, and constitutional reform. But what they failed to do is prioritize the withdrawal of foreign troops over domestic issues. It's difficult to imagine local elections under what is essentially an occupation regime. They also failed to name Russia as the party responsible for withdrawing troops and equipment. They didn't recognize Russia as a conflict party. And most importantly, they completely ignored the key underlying issue, Ukraine's integration with the West. And this is the elephant in the room. Russia had just invaded Ukraine. And this was not about local issues, or not about language, regional autonomy. Special status for the Donbass didn't really matter that much for Russia, other than as a tool to exert influence over Ukraine as a whole, and exert influence on foreign policy and defense policy in Kiev. And if we look at the death and destruction that Russia has caused since 2022 in places like Mariupol, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and many other places, that should have really wiped out any last illusions that Russia actually cared about the Donbass and the people living in that region of Ukraine. So this whole thing was about geopolitics. It was really about Russia's unwillingness to give up its imperialist ambitions in Ukraine and let Ukraine continue its course towards independence and European integration.